Shannon Griffith. How are you, sir?
Doing fine. Doing fine.
It's been a minute, or I guess just a week.
Feels like a minute.
Seems like so much longer than that. Seems like so much longer.
There's been a lot
What's-
that's happened. There's been a lot that's happened in the last week.
Yeah. Tell me more. Do tell.
Well, first and foremost, this Juju Lewis thing, big weekend for the recruits coming in for their so-called official visits this weekend. Big group coming in, and Juju Lewis being one of them, who's already committed to USC, the quarterback, nationally rated quarterback, has about $1 million already in NIL deals. After this weekend, he's supposed to visit USC again, Colorado, Auburn, and I believe another institution I can't think of off the top of my head. But Tino Sinceri's relationship with this young man has got them to this point. Don't know if he'll end up at Indiana, but hey, if they can get him, they got a chance on campus, and it looks like that's going to happen this weekend. So, hey, all the best with that one. That would be a huge get for Coach Signetti and the staff as a whole. Even though they've got a pretty good quarterback room already, you never can be too overloaded at the quarterback position in today's game with the portal and stuff.
Not if you can bring number one in. No.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, right. I mean, it's just one of those things that, if you got a shot at something like this, you got to take it. And it sounds as if that they're actually getting some national attention from bringing this kid in. I was watching a show the other day talking about this visit and how Indiana had slid into this kid's top 5 or whatsoever. And I'm not sure what's going on with USC. I still can't figure it out. I can't figure out why, this kid's a strong commit to USC, but still visiting. That just doesn't make sense to me. But, hey, these 18-year-old kids nowadays, they're taking advantages of every opportunity to gain exposure and explore the world of value. That's what it's about. Yeah. I mean, that's what it's about.
Keyword value. Yeah. A couple of years ago, I don't know how many coaches would have stood for the fact of having a commitment that was going to be going on 5 other official visits while committed.
Exactly.
It would really, we're not in that era now, so it doesn't matter. So there's no point in talking. There's no different in talking about 2 years ago as if it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that all changed, with this new settlement. Exactly what, I don't know if that was where you were going with this all, but this new settlement that's come to the forefront now changes everything. It changes everything on how you do things and how you approach things, even though some things won't be totally ironed out till next fall of 2025. But you got to be prepared on what it may, entail for you as an individual program.
One of the things I thought of yesterday was that you don't have to go very far, just at professional sports. 30 years ago in Major League Baseball, the average salary was $1.1 million. Okay. There are NIL guys making that now. Not very many. There's not a lot that are making $1 million, as much as not nearly as much as people think. But my point is, today's Major League Baseball average salary has tripled that. Just the average salary to $3.2 million. So time just has to pass. It's not into the sphere of acceptance yet. There are still too many people who, oh, I don't like to. Nobody likes it. Every time I hear somebody start out with "I don't like," I just want to say stop. Nobody likes it. But guess what? You're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube. It is what it is. It's here and it's going forward. Now, whether or not there's some changes that need to be made, there's without no question about that. And first and foremost is the ability to have multi-year agreements with these players, in my opinion. If you don't get that, then you're never going to have a handle on this thing. If you don't have some kind of control, you cannot give all of the control with no barriers, no guardrails to the players. They deserve to be paid. I'm all about that. But I don't think they deserve to be able to have that ability. No coach is going to jump from school to school to school to school in a 4-year period. So every time, I don't want to. That's another argument that does not fly. Well, coaches, no. What coach do you know goes from school to school to school to school in a 4-year period? Doesn't happen. So it neither should that happen from a player standpoint for multiple reasons, especially with all the wherewithal that goes into all of this. So there are things that need to be fixed. Granted, I'm the first one in line with that, but the I don't like, just stop with it. It's nobody does. It's here, and just got to figure out how to get it. But
no, you're right. You are absolutely right as it pertains to how does the institution ultimately protect their investment in an individual, and even whether it's in the Big Ten or the new super conferences or how all this all works out, you've got to have some control. Like you said, the buyer has to have at least some value of control over the situation, and build in clauses if a coach leaves or however you want to look at it. And that's the thing that they're going to have to work out. On top of this is, how does football figure into this equation with this new 20 to 22 million that's coming in, in the next budget year? How does that get sliced? I think Signetti even mentioned that last night. 11 million will go to the women's sports and 11 million will go to the men's sports. Well, when you get to football, how does that equate in the equation? They're going to get 75% of that 11 million because they have the biggest roster. And that's the one thing that coaches are really concerned with, this 100-player roster, unlimited scholarships, but you can only have 100 players. Well, in the sport of football, they wanted the roster limit to be updated to 135 about 5 or 10 years ago because of injuries. Kids getting a concussion that ultimately could lead him out, being out for a month. I don't see the 100 cap on the number of players.
I saw talk of moving it the other way, though, too.
Other way in terms of upward?
Less.
Yeah, no, I know. There's just no way that's there's no coach out there right now going to say that having less than 100 players is a viable model for college football with the sport that is as physical as it is. It's the most physical sport outside of in terms of injuries, outside of gymnastics, believe it or not. In some respects, gymnastics has more injuries than football does, by a study that was done a few years ago. There was more knees and things of that nature. But the fact of the matter is, from a physicality standpoint, kids running into each other, there's no sport that is anywhere close to other sports, in terms of relatability. And I've always said this: the first mistake that ADs or presidents or whatever is done when it comes to Title IX and other thought process is trying to throw football in with the rest of the sports that they offer. It is a totally different ball game. Football needs to be talked about on its own as it pertains to the other sports that a school offers. You can lump everything else together. You're looking at similar numbers for other sports. But football, when you have 11 players starting on the field at one time, and you may have 22 different type of starters offensively and defensively, there's no sport like that. So I don't know what they're going to come up with at the conference level, the national level, but I just can't imagine that any football coach out there would accept a roster limit of less than 100 players. I just can't imagine that, because it'd be detrimental in terms of depth, having the depth necessary to play the game of college football.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how this affects Indiana football, because this is, again, something that goes in Indiana football's favor. They need that program, probably needs this more than any, without question, any program at Indiana, just because of the lack of resources previously. Scott Dolson didn't speak last night, which is normally that not the case, unless I missed it, but I haven't, was out in the main area or something, and he spoke beforehand, but I saw him there briefly, and but I don't think he spoke last night. So, but Indiana football has to continue to generate more money, and they're, the first thing that comes to mind is they need the suites and all of that stuff. And I know, as crazy as that sounds, it's chicken and the egg kind of a thing, but if you build it, will they come? Not if you don't have a solid product on the field. We've seen that with in this Indiana program, but I just think that things have changed. I really believe that Kurt Cignetti is going to make a difference. He's too laser focused, but he has the ability. He has the proven ability. He has the experience of doing this very thing. This is not his first head coaching job. That is a gigantic difference. He has a staff that has not only also experienced, but been with him for quite some time. That continuity cannot be overstated.
No, and the one thing that I think gives you a lot of hope in Coach Cignetti, and the blueprint that you can kind of see being developed over the last several months, is what he did after spring ball. And they identified, not that it was rocket science, because I think everybody could see it, that they were deficient at defensive line. They were deficient a little bit at the linebacker position, and they were deficient in the secondary. What does he do? He goes out and fills those needs. He gets a cornerback that was a freshman of the year that was wanted by a ton of top 25 type of programs, including the Alabamas of the world and all that, and the Pons kid that came ultimately to him from JMU. And that was a huge get for them. That was one of those, gives us one cornerback that we feel that can shut down a team's best receiver. And the other positions, being able to get a kid like CJ West from Kent State, added to the defensive line area that is still, was very suspect after spring ball. So he does a good job, in my opinion, being able to be very analytical in his approach to recruiting and what they need and how he's going to fulfill it. Sometimes he'll fill it based on what's in the portal. He also understands the value of building a program with quality high school football players, and he's done that. So everything right now, you can see how his blueprint and what he means by implementing that blueprint has been developed since he's gotten there, and what he has done in plain view in terms of the type of kids that he wants to go to get, and then being able to be a competitive force against other institutions where they're just not settling for the second best kid or the third best kid in some respects. Now, ultimately, productivity and what they do on the field will ultimately be the biggest judgment of that blueprint. But you have to look at it objectively and say, right now, what he's done in a short period of time has been very impressive with what he's got at his disposal. And like you said, if they can get themselves to build up the press box with suites and things of that nature, I believe Scott Dolson will do everything he possibly can to give him what he needs. He's done that already with some of the new turf in the Mellencamp field house, and then of course the weight room and things of that nature. You can kind of see the wheels starting to turn in a fashion where they can get themselves where they need to be football wise.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and thank you for enjoying our content and videos. And make sure you hit that subscribe and notifications toggle so you don't miss out on anything, whether it's Indiana Hoosiers, the Boilers, the Colts, the Pacers, Indiana high school action, whatever is happening in sports. We're trying to bring it all to you, and make sure you don't miss out on a thing. Again, hit the subscribe button for us. Helps us out a ton. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much.